Hello and good evening. Welcome everybody to the Pricing Your Jewelry for Profit live webinar. Thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited to be talking about this topic with you guys tonight. So we'll be starting in about 6 minutes, and I thought I'd come on and say hello to everyone like I normally do beforehand. If it's your first time here, then welcome. You made it onto a webinar. It's very exciting. Just to give you a quick tour around, there is a chat bar, so come feel free to say hello, introduce yourself, let us know where you're from. And if you'd like to share any of your social feeds, your Instagram or your Facebook, where we can find you online, feel free to share, because this is also a great networking opportunity to meet other jewelers and other people who are following a similar journey to you. So feel free to post those now or throughout the session, and I normally go back and have a look and try and find some people afterwards. The other thing to mention is that if you would like to ask a question at any point that you would like me to answer at the end of the session, there is an ask a question button. So please press on there and pop it in there so that I don't miss it. If you put it in the chat bar, I may well miss it, and I don't want to miss your questions. So who do we have on the session today? We've got Catherine and Zoe, who are both in Manchester. Welcome. Judy, Lydia, Julia, hello from Sao Paulo in Brazil. Welcome. We've got a very international audience today. I've seen that already in the chat. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Claire from West Sussex. We've got Liz, who is freezing in the Cotswolds, sending some warmness your way, Liz. Tina's here from Copenhagen. Welcome, Tina. Welcome, Blair, who is from Oregon, USA. Welcome. Andrea from Ontario. Why can I not say that? I've seen that word before. In Canada. Welcome. Welcome, Andrea. Helen is here from Cardiff in South Wales. Anna Campbell is here from Edinburgh in Scotland. And anyone who doesn't know Anna, she is the community manager here at Jewelers Academy. So she may be coming on the chat and answering some little questions or posting some links. So if you see her, that's Anna. Sarah is here from Cornwall. We've got Hills from Berkshire and Angelica from Colombia. Well, welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here. As I said, we will be starting very shortly at 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock for me. What time is it for you? Because you're all over the world, so it must be different times. We've got Karen from Berkshire. So today in this session, we're going to be talking all about how to price your jewelry. And I'm going to be sharing with you a bunch of different formulas that you can use depending on your jewelry business and what type of jewelry you're selling. And we're also going to be talking about some of the things that can get in our way when we're pricing, because a lot of pricing is actually not just down to the maths and working stuff out, but it's how we feel about our jewelry and how we feel about our prices and communicating those to our customers. And I found that that's been one of the most challenging things when working with jewelers and when selling jewelry myself, especially if you've made that piece by hand, because you have that emotional connection to it that is just a little bit harder to let go. So welcome everyone who is joining me on the live. We have Ruth from Ralston-on-Dove in Staffordshire. Welcome, Ruth, and welcome Fran from Bucks. Bless us, it's 12 noon. Oh, it's quite a good time. Yeah, I like that. Nice lunchtime webinar. Why not? So yes, so we will be starting very shortly. If you have just joined, do come and say hello and introduce yourself. As I mentioned before, do feel free to share any links if you have an Instagram or a Facebook for your jewelry business. Feel free to share them, because it's a great way to connect with some other jewelers as well and make some friends while we're on the session tonight. Lyri Works is here. Hello. We're Insta friends. Welcome from Chio, probably not how you say it, in California. Brilliant. 12 for you too. I'm awful at names and countries, so please forgive me for all of my mistakes before we even start the session. We have Malagorotza. I'm sorry, I definitely said that wrong, but welcome. First time on a webinar, I'm feeling excited. And there's your Instagram. Brilliant. Maggie Jewelry. Andrea said it's 3 p.m. In Poland, it's 9 p.m. So I always find it so incredible that we're all over the world. It's different time zones, it's different countries, but we can all come together around this idea that we love making jewelry or running our jewelry businesses, and we have this same challenge around pricing. So thank you so much for being here. Julie is here. Hello, welcome, Julie. So yeah, if you're just coming on thinking, what is going on? You are in the right place. I'm Jessica Rose, and I will be hosting this session for you guys tonight on how to price your jewelry for profit will be starting in just a couple of minutes. Do come and introduce yourself on the chat, get to know each other. We're all very friendly here. Jewelers are always friendly, aren't they? Katie says, hi. Jasonette says, hi. Jasonette from the Bahamas. Oh, I'm so jealous. That sounds amazing. Welcome. Claire is here at social media, Seafield Silver. That's a lovely name. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this session. So yeah, if you made it in, the hardest part of a webinar is getting here and, committing the time, because our lives are so busy, aren't they? We get so distracted. We sign up for things and then at the last minute we realize, oh my gosh, I haven't done it. So well done, and give yourself some props for being here and committing to your jewelry business in this way. Do get yourself comfy because we'll start any minute. So get your beverages, get your notebooks at the ready. There's a lot that we're going to be covering today and I don't want you to miss anything. Tina is here as well, and Lydia. So some nice Instagram feeds. Brilliant. Welcome. All right. So yes, just one more time before we start the session. If you have a question, please ask it in the Ask a Question section so that I don't miss it as we go through tonight's webinar, and I will come to the Q&A right at the end. Feel free to post things in the chat box as well, but I don't always see them as we're going through the content. So it is about that time, 8 o'clock. We will get on through the webinar on pricing your jewelry for profit. So thanks everyone so much for being here. I appreciate your time. And this is a topic that's very close to my heart because I think that we spend all of our time learning how to make jewelry, developing our craft, coming up with our jewelry business, our names, our websites, all of this. And if we don't get the pricing right, then we can be doing all this activity. We can even be having lots of sales in our jewelry business. But if there's no profit included in our pricing, then our business is not going to be able to sustain itself in the long run. And it is, it's such a shame when you see jewelers that don't carry on or have to go back to their day jobs because they didn't look at this earlier, because perhaps they didn't have the guidance or they didn't know how to price their jewelry for profit. So we are not going to be one of those. We're going to make sure that you are armed with everything you need in order to price your jewelry and have a thriving business that's also sustainable into the future, because you deserve it. Let's face it. So hello and welcome. Getting your pricing right is essential for you and your business for the reasons that I just outlined. If you don't factor profit into what you're doing, then it won't be sustainable. And we want you to be able to keep doing this. We need money to invest in your business, to buy new tools, to buy new machinery if you're going to grow. And we also want to pay you a very fair and good wage for what you're doing. So how do you currently feel about your pricing? Come and let me know in the comments. So pop an A in the chat bar if you're generally happy with your pricing, but you'd just like to learn a bit more. Or B, if you feel like you're probably undercharging, and most people are probably undercharging, even if they don't know it. A C, if you worry that you might be overcharging for your jewelry. Or a D, if you just don't know where to start. It's a minefield to you, and there is no right or wrong answer. So we've got some D's, some B's, some more D's, an A, brilliant, a couple of B's. So a real mixture, actually. It's interesting to see because I've done 3 of these webinars to see the mixture of people. Another A, a couple of B's, C's, D's. Brilliant. So wherever you're at, as I said, there is no judgment. It's just interesting for me to know where everyone is in terms of where you start, and we can have a look and see how you feel in a couple of months' time once you've put some of these strategies into place. So in this session, I'll be covering how to price your jewelry using formulas, which is the way that we normally think about in terms of when we're pricing our jewelry. We're normally, if somebody says, how do I price my jewelry? They want a formula. So we will be doing those, but we'll be doing a lot more as well because it's not all about the formulas. So we'll be looking at how to work out your retail price, your wholesale price, and your cost pricing for your jewelry, 3 important figures that you need to know. And we'll also be looking at pricing for commissions. So commissions are pieces that somebody asks you to do specifically for them, and we price those a little bit differently. We'll also look at how to use sales and discounts and marketing and how that affects your pricing too. And a few myths about pricing busted, because there are lots of things that get in our way that, as I said, are not just to do with the numbers, but to do with our mindset around money and around charging what we're worth and around communicating that to people, because we worry that people will say it's not worth it. So that's something we're going to have a look at today. Plus, at the end of the session, I'll be sharing with you a brand new pricing spreadsheet, because everybody loves a spreadsheet. This one has not been shared anywhere else yet. I do have a YouTube on pricing your jewelry for profit, which has been up for a few years. There's a spreadsheet with that, but this is a new and improved one with the formulas that I'm covering in the session today, because over the years, I have developed my knowledge on pricing, working with hundreds of jewelers, and these are the ones that are current and working for jewelers right now in the industry. I will also be sharing with you at the end of this session a very special offer for the Jewelry Business Bootcamp, which is our flagship course, which is launching this Friday. I cannot believe we are finally here. We've been working on this all year round. So this Friday, the Jewelry Business Bootcamp, which is an 8-week intensive, extensive training for your jewelry business, and I'll share a little bit more about that towards the end of the session. So if anyone's not met me before, hello and welcome. I'm Jessica Rose. I'm a jeweler, a designer, a maker, and I founded the London Jewelry School in 2008. It says 2018, but that's just to check that you're awake. And we've trained over 30,000 jewelers there to date. So I work with jewelers day in and day out. And I started Jewelers Academy a couple of years ago. And we are a membership organization for jewelers to help them develop their making skills and their business skills. And we have roughly 500 incredible members, some of which are on today, I am sure. So I've run 7 different jewelry businesses or jewelry-based businesses. And some of them have been successful and some of them have not. And in fact, the ones that have been unsuccessful has probably taught me the most lessons about what doesn't work, certainly about pricing and cost and understanding how to run a business, but also finding what I really love doing. And I think that every one of us has to find our own unique path. There's always a way to be successful in this industry, but it's just about finding where your interests meet the interests of a whole bunch of customers who really want to buy from you. And I do share a little bit about the money that I have brought in over the years, not to show off or to be kind of sleazy about it, but just to show what's possible. You know, I'm just an ordinary person. Before I started, I didn't know how to make any jewelry. I didn't know how to run a business at all. And I did short courses. I did trainings like the ones you're on at the moment right now with me, and implemented those strategies. And over time, it worked, because when you put the effort in, it does work. And especially when you're learning from your mistakes and just following what's happening in your business and not afraid to do some little twists and turns and work out where the sweet spot is for you. So I hope that you know that your potential is limitless. And, you know, sometimes we think because we run a jewelry business, we can't make a good income for it. You know, we can't pay our mortgage. We can't be the breadwinner. I think all of that is complete nonsense. And it's one of those things, if you believe it won't happen for you, it probably won't, because our minds have this funny way of creating reality for us. And if you believe that you can do it and you can build your business to be as big as you like, then that absolutely can happen for you. And I see it with some of the jewelers that I work with as well that are very successful and bring in high incomes, and they're not that different to the ones that don't. A lot of it is to do with our mindset. So we'll be talking a little bit about that as well. So your pricing is a display of your confidence, and my urge to you at the beginning of this session is to have confidence and charge more. I can guarantee that almost 90% of you, if not more, will be undercharging, because artists in general tend to undercharge, and jewelers certainly undercharge. We feel like it's going to help our business. We feel like we're going to feel more confident if we undercharge, but it actually has the converse effect. So my urge to you is that I know it's scary. You don't have to do it all at once, but I'm almost certain that you will need to be charging more than you currently are. So some of the dangers of underpricing I would like to talk about. We think that undercharging in our business will lead to more sales, but actually it doesn't. And I'll talk about why it doesn't in a little bit. We think that people will like us more because it's cheaper and it's a nice thing to do. We think we're going to feel better, and we think it will allow our business to grow. But what actually happens in reality is that when we undercharge, often we get less sales because there is this concept of perceived value. Handmade jewelry is a luxury item. So we're not looking for a bargain here. And, you know, if you're someone who's buying handmade jewelry, you normally want it. You won't say this, but you normally want it to actually cost a little bit of money because it's a special treat. So I often give the example of a tiara at a wedding. You know, if you were it was your wedding day and someone said, here's a £20 tiara, here's a £120 tiara, and almost if they looked nearly exactly the same, you would want to wear the £120 one because it makes you feel more special. You feel like that more went into it. The materials are probably better. It's probably better made. And that is really important when we think about how we price our jewelry. There's also this interesting idea of higher price sensitivity. So if you start by charging your jewelry at a low rate, you attract the bargain hunters. And let me tell you, we do not want to attract the bargain hunters. So an interesting way to think about this is if you know the website Groupon or similar sites like that, where they put out emails each day where they're giving like a discount on something that's going on. We did this at the London Jewellery School a few years back, and there are people that are always looking for bargains. So the reason why this Groupon thing doesn't really work is because it's only bargain hunters, and then they're on to the next bargain. So as soon as they find another jeweler or another space that does what you do for less, they will switch. Whereas what we really want to do is create a connection with people, whether online or in person, where they want to buy from you. And price isn't really in the conversation, you know, as long as it's not ridiculous, like completely the other way. People want to buy from you because they know you, they like you, they trust you, and they love your jewelry. And jewelry is a lot more about desire than it is about price. So do keep that in mind when those little gremlins in your mind say, no, you can't charge that much. Say, well, actually, it may be a much better business decision for so many reasons. We also have a lack of profits to grow the business, which means it's unsustainable and it essentially becomes an expensive hobby. So a little exercise for you guys. If you feel like you might be undercharging or it's something you're worried about in your business, speak to the customer who says, why does it cost that much? So imagine you're at a craft fair or a stall or anything like that. It's just an exercise to do between yourself and the mirror or a friend. And someone comes up and says, oh, I love this piece, but why does it cost so much? And then explain the value confidently to them. So, why does this metal clay piece cost that much? Well, it's made out of these materials, which are sourced from this place, and it's really gorgeous silver and gemstones, and I handcrafted it for 4 hours. And this is a really interesting technique that I use. Bring them into it all. So there are ways to sell your jewelry where it's actually exciting that it costs more because it's a more precious item. It's more valuable. It's more exciting. So have a go at that exercise at some point, because I found that if you can confidently explain it, even though it's very rare that somebody actually says that to you, it's normally in our heads that we worry that somebody might say, oh no, it's going to cost that much. You just sell and present your jewelry in a much more confident way, and that comes across to the customer as well. So I want you guys to feel really confident about your pricing, not to feel like you're stretching. And this exercise will really help with that. So give that one a go when you've got a few spare moments. So pricing is an art and not a science. So we're going to talk through the formulas in a little bit. But before we do, I just want to preface that with this idea that you can't just put a number into a calculator and at the end you will have your price and that's it. You need to include some of your subjectivity, some of your thoughts, some of your understanding of your customers and the market and so on and so forth. So this is how to price your jewelry. So we want to kind of find that pricing sweet spot, I call it, where we meet the two circles of what your customer is happy to pay, and not just will pay, but they're happy to pay, where they say, yep, absolutely, I want that piece, and where you make a good living and a profit from your craft. So in the middle is all those happy dances that we know and love. So there are 4 elements that I always take a piece of jewelry through to price it, to find this pricing sweet spot. And they're questions really that I ask myself. And the first time you do this, it may take a little bit of time and you might think, oh my gosh, it takes a long time to price a piece of jewelry. But the more you do it, you'll become more confident, and you'll do this in a few seconds. It will just run through your mind. So here are the 4 elements of pricing. The first one is cost-based pricing, which is the one that we talk about a lot, which is formulas. So normally if you post somewhere in a Facebook group or something about how to price your jewelry, someone will post a formula and that's it. And this is important. It's important to know our cost-based pricing, but that's not the end of the story. There are 4 elements here. So the next one we look at is the market. What is this, a similar piece sold for elsewhere? And when we're looking at the market, we're always looking to compare to other handmade designers if your work is handmade, or if your work is like partially handmade, comparing to partially handmade. So you want to compare like with like, because we're definitely not comparing with the high street. We would never compete with the high street. We wouldn't want to. It's a completely different audience, market, everything. So look at other handmade designers doing similar things. What's it sold for elsewhere? Then the next thing, which I really love and think that a lot of us are not doing enough of, but we could really make big gains here, is added value. So we think about what value are you adding as your business specifically to the customer. So are you, sometimes you have brand value. So as an extreme example of brand value would be Tiffany's, who can sell paper clips for £2,000 because it's Tiffany's, and it doesn't matter if it's only a little bit of gold or a little bit of silver because of the brand. Now, we're not quite in that league, but you do develop brand value over time as you develop loyalty. If you've been a jeweler operating for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, there are people who want to come to you and they'd be willing to pay a bit extra because it's you, because you've developed those relationships. Whereas when we're brand new, that is a little bit harder, the brand value. But there's other ways to add value other than your brand. Having really gorgeous packaging that looks lovely when it arrives and gives the customer a really exciting feeling about your jewelry, that's adding value. Having sizing charts and different things at the checkout page so that they feel really secure and comforted and connected all the way through that checkout process, that's adding value. Brilliant customer service, having gorgeous pictures of your work, all of these things are adding value. So I want you to have a think about how you can do more of these things, and you don't need to do all of them, but just the little things can make a big difference, and how that will make a difference to your price point at the end, because it does affect the whole experience of buying this handmade work. Finally, we want to think about what you want. What are your goals? What income do you want to bring in this year? And what would you be happy selling this particular piece for? Because you need to be happy as well at the end of the day, and you need to have some income that supports you. Otherwise, this is not going to go on for very long, or it becomes that expensive hobby we talked about. So for an example, if I put a piece for a formula and it came out at £50, I might look around. And I would also say that I don't look around the market very much. This isn't a great exercise for your self-esteem. So, keep it very brief and move on, focus on you, run your own unique path. We're definitely community over competition here, but have a little look at the market. And in this example, it's come up between £40 and £80. But then I'm looking at my added value. So I have some really nice packaging. I include a polishing cloth. I've got a little loyal following, and I've got some nice photos. Then I think, okay, what do I want? And this is where the art, not science, comes in, because these are not numeric, as you will see. I'm just kind of adding my art to the science. And then I come up with my final price, which can be anything. It can be anything. But knowing what the formula came up with helps me get to that final price in the end. So the questions I ask myself for each piece is, what does the formula say? What is it sold for elsewhere? Are there any additional services that I offer or brand value? And how much do I need to charge to make the profits that I want? And considering all of that together, what is the price of this piece? And I know a few people who've taken this webinar already, so they put their pieces through all this and it comes up quite a bit higher. So if that's the case, just start raising them gradually. You may well be undercharging. You will not be alone. Your business will not stop if you charge more. It's just a case of bringing your customers with you, so gradually increasing bit by bit. Okay, so how do we work out our cross pricing, which are our formulas? I have 3 formulas for 3 different types of business, because as we've grown and we've seen jewelers and how their businesses developed, we realized that trying to do one formula for every type of jewelry business it becomes quite cumbersome. So these are the 3 pricing models that I recommend that you choose the one that is the closest to whatever you're doing at that particular time. And of course, with any formula, feel free to edit, tweak, adapt. You know your business better than anyone. So formula is just the bare bones. It's a skeleton, a starting point, and you can put the meat on as you see fit. So the first model is selling directly to the customer. So this is based on an online business model, but could be adapted quite easily for something like craft fairs or events. It's something that's direct from you, the jeweler, to the customer without any real middle person in between. The second one is a wholesale business model. So this, if you're selling mainly through shops, galleries, any kind of third party where they are selling the work for you and buying it from you or taking it on sale or return basis. Then the third business pricing model is a commission-based or one-of-a-kind pieces, where somebody has come to you and said, actually, I want to buy this piece and I'd like you to make it for me. So we price that one differently too. So number one, we're going to start with number one. I'm going to take you through the formulas. Is selling direct to the customer, online sales or events. And I'm just going to go a little bit smaller now, make the screen a little bit bigger so I can talk you through the formula. And this is all covered in the download that I'll be giving you at the end. I'm just getting my spreadsheet up. So yes, at the end, I'll be sharing this download with you. And this is an Excel document which you can use, you can edit, you can do what you like to work out the pricing for your jewelry. Okay, so this is selling direct to the customer. So you might be selling through Instagram, you might be selling through Etsy, you might be selling through an online website, you might be selling through fairs and events. So we start off with the material costs, and we want to put in everything that you need to make that piece. So the yellow bits in the spreadsheet are the bits that you change, and you can add more to those, and the white bits are the workings out it will do for you. So this brings our total material costs, which is here. Then we want to look at our time, and I will talk in a minute about how you work out how much to charge for your time. But you put the number of hours that you spend on this piece and your fee per hour, which brings you to your total time cost over here. Next, we look at our packaging costs. So we pop those in. I separate postage from packaging. So I add postage on at the end because it feels very separate to me. If I'm sending it down the road versus sending it across the world, that's going to be a huge difference. Whereas the packaging is always the same. It's the postage that costs change a lot. So that brings all of those things bring us to our cost price. And it's really important when we're selling our work, when we're doing discounts or offers or any kind of promotions, we never want to go below this cost price. This is the minimum, but that is not the price. That is not the retail price for our jewelry, because we then do a markup. So the standard markup for this business model is ×2. You can change it. You know, every jewelry business is different, so you can put 2.5 or 3, but for most of us, it's ×2, and that brings us to our basic selling price. Then I add in the additional costs. So these costs I don't include in the markup. Some people do, and you may find for your business model it works for you too. But I personally think that they are separate costs, so I put them at the end after the basic selling price. So any Etsy fees, PayPal fees, transaction fees on your card reader, they all go in here, and they're normally a percentage of the selling price. So I've put them in the formula as a percentage, but you could also put a lump sum if you know the lump sum. And I add in postage, any taxes or VAT that might need paying, Add all of those up, and there's my additional costs there. And that brings me to the final selling price for this piece. And that is the formula I use for online selling. So a few key considerations is that I pop the postage at the end because that varies a lot, whereas the other things are fairly consistent. I make sure that I've included some budget in there for the online card processing fees, because otherwise that will really eat into your profits if you don't have space for that. And there's room for discounts, offers, marketing budget. So in terms of the markup, this is to cover your overheads, the marketing, and your profit for growth. So it's a really important part. If you miss that out, you will be underpricing your jewelry quite massively. In terms of the time, this is the wage or the hour cost. And one way that I think about it is, if I needed to hire someone to make this piece, whatever it is, how much would I need to pay them? So making sure that you're not undercharging for that time. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask them in the questions section, but I will go on to the next formula that hopefully you've roughly got the idea of what that one is. So all of the costs, markup, additional costs, selling price there. And if I'm going to do discounts or sales, as I said, I've got some wiggle room down to cost price plus additional costs. So cost price plus additional costs is the minimum amount I would want to go down to if I was doing like a special offer. And I don't really agree with doing lots of discounting for handmade work, but it's just good to know what you could do. If you've got some stock that's really old that you want to get rid of, you know your minimum amount for just breaking even on that piece. Okay, so business model number 2. Come and let me know in the comments if you are still with me. I know that this is quite, if you're not a numbers person, and hands up, I'm not a numbers person, it can feel quite intense doing this type of work, but we can do it together. And so come and let me know if you're still with me, if it's still going in. And I'll go on to number 2, which is the wholesale business model. Now, before I go on to this, just want to say that I don't recommend hybriding these two models. And in general, in terms of your business strategy, I would recommend choosing a key path to growth, either wholesale, so selling your work through retailers, shops and galleries, or selling online. It doesn't mean that you can't do both, but I think that one of them should be your key business strategy. Most jewelers don't have a 50-50 split. It's very unusual that that happens. For most of us, we have a general kind of way that we do everything. Like we might be selling mainly online and selling 1 or 2 shops. So I'll talk about how we handle that in just a minute, but I wouldn't recommend hybriding the two. Because, I'll put it here, I've given myself a slide. You don't want to undercut the wholesalers when you're selling direct. So you don't want, so if you use these 2 formulas, they will come out a little bit different. The online one will be a little bit less than the wholesale one. And you don't want to undercut by selling the same piece for less online than you're selling in a shop. That's unprofessional. It's not nice for the shop owner to experience that. They won't want to work with you. So I would recommend having certain collections that you sell online, that you can create the price for that, and having separate collections or like a version of that collection that you sell through wholesale and others for retail. Because if we use the same formula for everything, what happens is we end up pricing our online jewelry a little bit higher than it really needs to be in order for us to make a profit. And then it's harder for us to sell it. People expect to pay more when they walk into a shop. And we're not talking huge amounts more, but they do expect to pay a little bit more. And that shop owner is a business owner too. They've got to pay for their overhead. So they need their markup. So this is why I think it works better to have one key strand of growth. So you can focus your pricing efforts on it and you can focus your marketing efforts on it. Hopefully that made sense, but I will go on to the next formula now. Okay, so if you're selling through shops and galleries, the first part of the formula is the same. Materials are the same. So all you're working out, and in the Excel spreadsheet, you can of course add in as many lines here as you need to get all of the little bits and pieces in for your material costs. Time is the same, fee per hour, all of that's the same, packaging costs, cost price is the same. So this is where it changes, is when we get to wholesale profit. So we add in something I call wholesale profit that is some money to cover your overheads and the profit to grow your business, because we all need profit in our businesses in order to reinvest and to grow. So I've put it as 20%, and I would say that a minimum of 20% wholesale profit should be applied. It might be 25, it might be 30, it depends on what you're selling and your business model. And that brings us to an amount which is our wholesale profit, which when added to the cost price, and it will do all of this for you, gives us our wholesale price. Then we have a markup. So the markup also changes, but the standard industry markup is ×2. And for some shops and galleries, they might mark it up 2.5 or even 3. It's up to the shop how much they mark it up by, but we tend to put a general standard of ×2. So that means this wholesale price ×2 brings us to the retail price. So the wholesale price is here, the retail price is here, but then I add the additional costs again. So postage, be really clear about who's paying for this, whether you need to include it in your costing or not. I would probably include it because most of the time you probably will be paying, and any VAT or taxes. So this is our wholesale price plus our additional cost, which brings us to this. And this is the price that I sell it to the shop for. So a few considerations on this model. We want to make sure including wholesale profit. If not, there's no profit to run your business. There's no overheads. So this is a lot less than in the model before. You will be getting a lot less, but you're not doing as much of the marketing. You're not selling the piece really. You're selling it to the wholesaler, but they are doing the work of selling it on. So you don't need as much, or you shouldn't need as much, but you do need some. So make sure that you have some in there. The other thing to think about is sale or return items. So for anyone who's not heard this term, sale or return, when you sell through a shop or a gallery, there's normally 2 ways you can do it. One is they say, we'll take your items on sale or return basis. So we will put them in our window. We'll try and sell them. If we sell them, we'll give you the money for them. And if we don't, we'll return them. So obviously this is not ideal for you. You want to eventually move on to a place where they are buying your jewelry outright. But most places start on sale or return, and it's a good way to get your foot in the door. So don't be afraid to do it. But what you might want to do is offer discounts if they take it on a full part buying basis. So remembering that the wholesaler is a customer too, we might want to offer some discounts to them. The other thing that I think is really nice to do for shops is to say, if you buy a certain amount of pieces, if you buy 10, or if you buy this collection of 3 necklaces, 2 earrings, a couple of bracelets to put in your display, then I'll give you 10% off the total price. So if we want to do that, which I think is a good business decision, we need to add that in on top of the wholesale percentage. Hopefully you guys are still with me. So think about your marketing and any kind of discounts you might want to do, or any kind of incentives, because it won't necessarily be discounts. It could be bonuses. It could be that you're including I don't know, some extra packaging, which is on top of this, or something, the free pair of earrings with every piece that somebody buys. You need to include the money for that in here as well, because you don't want to get to the end of the day and the person that is, I don't want to say screwed over, but I said it, is you. Because, and the shop owner doesn't want that either. They want a good, reliable supplier who's going to keep going. So this is in everybody's interest. Brilliant. Okay, moving on to pricing model number 3. If you have any questions on that one, please ask them. I'll get to those at the end. So commission-based pricing model. This one is really quite different. So this, I've based it on pieces that are bespoke. So somebody has asked for this piece. You've not, you don't make it as part of your collection. And normally they're higher ticket items. So we expect to be charging more for these pieces. So I've put in all the materials in here, some gold, sheet, wire, solder, gemstones. Don't forget your solder. It costs money. Put it in. Brings us to our total material costs. And then I divide up the time a little differently. So I will put in time for design and consultation time, because that can take time when we're doing commissions, and it's important to include. And then the making time. And you do have to guesstimate this, how long it will take you to make the piece. And that is kind of down to you. But you can give a quote that is between this and that, depending on how long it takes. The more that you do these types of jobs, the better you will get at guesstimating the time. Then we include our packaging costs. So all of that's pretty much the same. And then I include any additional costs that are usually included in this type of work. So hallmarking, remembering that if you're doing a gold piece, or if you've got a piece that you're doing and there's a short time frame, then you may need to get it hallmarked separately. So usually we will hallmark in a batch, and it will make it a lot cheaper for our collections. But if somebody says, I want you to make this gold ring and I need it in 3 weeks, you might not have a batch of gold pieces, and gold is hallmarked as a separate price anyway. So what I'm getting at here is make sure you charge the full whack for what you're going to be charged. And if you're sending it to the assay office and back, that is more money too to be included. Stone setting, polishing, any other charges that you might have. So these are our total additional costs on making this piece. So that brings us to our cost price. And again, that cost price figure is really important because that's the minimum amount we want to charge. But of course, on a commission, we should be marking up. And the normal markup is 2 to 3 times, depending on your experience and the materials you're working with. I'm going to start with 2. When I say 2 to 3, it could be 2.2, it could be 2.5. I would run a piece through a calculator a few times and see what fits right with you. But at least 2 times markup, which brings us to our selling price. And then I add in any other VAT or taxes and postage costs at the end, which brings us to our final price that we quote. Now, a few considerations for this one is, if you're doing things like gold sheet, gold, platinum, any kind of precious metal, be aware that it fluctuates a lot. I'm sure you are aware of that already. So give timelines on your quote. You know, it may only last for a couple of days, or put something in your quote to the customer that says, this is the quote at this point, but metal prices fluctuate. So, you know, please get back to me as soon as possible, and I will provide another quote if the pricing changes, you know, if the gold market changes. So you can word it a little bit more succinctly than that, but essentially we want to make sure that people know that the cost of precious metals is a commodity. It's not something we can control, and it does change, and you don't want to be caught out with that. So we've talked about hallmarking. Okay, so for expensive stones, we include expensive stones in a different way. So if you're working with gemstones that are normally £100 and over, certainly 150 and over, we treat them a little bit differently, because if we pop them in here, our formula is going to come up very high. And if you feel like you can do that, then go for it by all means. But normally we treat expensive stones separately. So we mark them up by 1.5%. And this is in the spreadsheet as a separate kind of calculator. So let's say you've got a diamond and it cost £1,000 and you wanted to mark that up separately. You'd put it in, times it by 1.5, so 1,500, and you would add that on at the end of this whole formula. So take it out there, still treat the rest of the materials the same, but treat that expensive gemstone in a slightly different way, because we don't want to mark it up by 2 or 3 times, because it does bring it out as very expensive then. Make sure you include time for your design time, and it should be a premium for commission. So these pieces should cost more. And remember that even though your customers may not know it yet, they're happy to pay more. You just have to be very confident in your delivery and in your abilities and what you're offering. But, you know, likewise, if you're new to jewelry and you're experimenting and you're trying things out and you're just getting past the friends and family stage, then you might make some allowances. You might go a little bit lower because you're getting experience. As long as you know you're underpricing for a reason, and you know, as soon as you feel confident you're able to increase it, that's fine. I think what I want to get across in this session is not that you have to price your jewelry this way, but once you know how to price it for profit, you can make business decisions around whether you want what you want to do and what your strategy is. Okay, so a little task for you. Well done for getting through those three. I know it is a lot to take in. To select your pricing model, so the one that fits most for your jewelry business, and to take either a piece or a small collection of pieces and run it through the formulas. Download the spreadsheet at the end and just have a play with it. Get to grips with how to do this, because what you'll find as well is by going through this process, not only will you be able to price your jewelry, but you'll understand your business so much better. You'll start to really think about what costs are involved, and you feel a lot more confident when you're on top of all of this stuff. And it'll help you make better business decisions when you're buying things, when you're marketing, all of that. You'll have a lot more confidence. So people often ask how much to charge for my time. And whilst there's no definitive answer to this, this is my guide for you. It's in pounds. So if you're in another country, you might need to convert it. But I would say a minimum charge of £12.50 per hour. That is around like the London living wage. So that is the minimum amount I would recommend anyone charge for their work. And then your price goes up with your skill level and as your materials increase and the quicker you are. So if you know that you're slow at the moment, and there's no judgment, we all start slow. It's better to do the work well, do it slowly, and know that, okay, I will increase my fee per hour as this goes up. So just because we start here, it doesn't mean this is where we're always going to be. The first few years, you're normally between the £15 to £25 bracket. An established jeweler might be 25 to 40, and an experienced high-end jeweler might be 40 plus per hour. And remember how many pieces you can make in that time, because an established jeweler may be able to make 20 pieces in a day, whereas a new jeweler might spend the whole day making one piece. So it's kind of thinking about how you use your time, the materials that you're working with, because more expensive materials, you're taking a higher risk. So you need to be charging more, because let's say you melt a piece of gold, which I'm sure you never will, but you've got to absorb that cost as a business owner. So we need to consider all these things so that you do have some profits at the end of the day. Remember that formula is not everything. And here is another way to look at it. So have you really stopped to think about what you want in this business? We often worry about the customer, which is brilliant because they're important, but you need to feel happy with the price you're selling your pieces for. So one way to do this is to work out roughly what you want your salary to be this year. So to keep it simple, I've not broken down income and profits. They are different things, but I'm just going to go with income for now. So let's say you want to bring in 20K this year. So think about, okay, how many pieces realistically can I make this year? Let's say I can make 300 pieces, and that means that I need to make an average of £67 per piece in the time section. So have a little think about how you break down what you want to make into the number of pieces. Or you might break it down in a different way and say, I want the same 20K, but I want to sell 10 commission pieces at around 500 each, which gives me a quarter of that. Then I want to sell 100 of my collection pieces. They're about £100 each, and that will bring in 10,000. And I teach jewelry making, so I want to teach 5 workshops, and they bring around £1,000 in each, and that's how I come up to my figure. Now, of course, we can't predict the future, but this is a really good exercise to go through to just work out, what do you want? And you can think about roughly what you want this year, and you can also think, at least theoretically, about what you want in the future, because obviously your business can grow year on year as you develop and your customer base develops. At this point, we can start to feel like it's all a bit too much. So I want to remind you that your potential is limitless. You can achieve anything you want. And I really believe that. And in my experience, it has been true. So, if your brain is telling you, I can't charge that much, I can't sell that many pieces, I can't make a proper income from this, remember that you can. People do every single day. There are many people that make jewelry. There are many people that do it as a living, and there are many people that buy jewelry. Lots of us. So any kind of excuse that your mind comes up with, and you are not alone, we all have them, these limiting beliefs that make us feel like for whatever reason it won't work, just remember, this is absolutely something you are capable of, 100%. So if your brain is hurting, I do understand it takes some time to get to grips with all of this. But like all things in business, it is a learning curve and you will get there. Just keep working on it and developing your skills and your confidence. So finding your sweet spot, your pricing sweet spot is important, but there are many other areas to work on to have a thriving business. We need to make sure that your branding is in line with your messaging, that you've got beautiful logos, colors, typography, and inspiring. It's really important for jewelers branding to be inspiring because we're selling something that's quite visual, and often it's all about that desire piece, something that somebody really wants. The branding really helps with that. Our marketing, our advertising, whether that's Facebook ads or Instagram ads or real life person ads, marketing, websites, having a website that sells our work, that is effectively doing that messaging to our customers, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter. You don't have to be on all of them, but at least on one of them very effectively, talking to people normally day in and day out to build those connections. Packaging, making sure we have that added value piece, that it's really nice to buy from a small business and that our customers feel valued and appreciated. And the general business management, understanding the taxes, and anyone who's doing their tax return right now because it's coming to the end of January, or other areas of managing your business, your time management, your organization, your inventory. There is a lot that goes into a small business, which is why we started Jewelers Academy, because people coming through the London Jewelry School were often sharing, we love learning to make jewelry, but after the class, how do I set up, run, and grow my business? And that's how Jewelers Academy was born and where the membership came from. And of course, the Jewelry Business Bootcamp. So stay tuned for the pricing spreadsheet download, which will be coming up in just a minute. And I will be telling you a bit about the Jewelry Business Bootcamp, which is our 8-week extensive business training for jewelers to grow their jewelry business. So the whole idea behind this course is that if you want to grow a profitable, successful, sustainable business, making your jewelry, selling your work, and not selling your soul, and still having time to be with your family and live a very full life, then this was created for you. And I created it because this is what I wanted, and this was what I was able to create for myself. And I wanted to give a pathway, a formula for other people to be able to do that too. So it's designed to get you running this jewelry business that gets you making a good living from your passion, developing those relationships with customers, building a loyal following, and it's very practical and hands-on. So it's made uniquely for jewelers. So all of the content in the course is aimed at a jewelry business. And as you can see from the pricing webinar, there's quite a lot that goes into that's very specifically jewelry based. So if I asked you to price, I don't know, a microphone, you'll probably be quite straightforward, or price this cup, price in general product that's out there. With jewelry, we've got expensive stones, we've got precious metal, we've got hallmarking. There's lots of things to think about. So I think what's really unique about the bootcamp is it's designed by jewelers. Me and my team are all jewelers. We're all running our jewelry businesses. We're in the industry. A lot of us are teaching jewelry making as well. So we're learning all the time what it is that works for jewelers. And that's what we share inside the course and inside the membership. So the bootcamp is 8 weeks, and each week we follow a different topic. There's video content. There's a bunch of videos that will be released at the beginning of the week. And then there is a live Q&A, a bit like this session, with me and another jeweler. And we'll come on and answer your questions so that anything that comes up during the course, you can get immediate support and get support from the group as well. And one of the most important parts of the bootcamp course is the Facebook group. And this has always been the feedback, is that as soon as you have an issue, night or day, you pop it in the Facebook group and a friendly jeweler will be there to help and offer some support for what you can do next. So it's very practical, as I said, and especially this year, because we've created a new version of the bootcamp this year. The last time I made it was about 4 years ago. So this is a brand new course, and I show you a lot of behind the scenes, how to create a website, step by step, exactly how to do it, how to set up Facebook ads or Instagram ads, how to do your Etsy listings, how to improve your SEO, how to get more traffic to your site, how to do your email marketing. I run 2 successful businesses, so we do this all the time, and we share what's working for us as it's happening right now, along with the jewelers who run smaller businesses who have that knowledge of what's happening and working for people who are just starting out as well. So this year we've got lots of templates too. So lots of things you can just plug in and play. So lots of downloads. And this is an example of a gemstone sheet. So if you have a jewelry business website and you want to put this on your blog or share it with your customers, we've got those. We've got sizing guides, all the things that we know jewelers should have on their website, but it may take us quite a while to create it on our own. So it's saving the time in your business by just popping it all in there. So this course has been taken by over 500 jewelers to date, and you can see some of my team there on the street outside my house because this is what I make them do. But it is a complete training in launching, growing and scaling a jewelry business quickly and efficiently, because I can tell you I've made so many mistakes in business, you know, some of them colossal, some of them nearly cost me my business a couple of times round. So I'm very passionate about sharing the things that work versus the things that don't, because I don't want you to have to give up. I don't want you to get to the stage where you love what you do, but there's not enough money coming in. That should never happen, in my opinion, to anyone. There's always a solution. There is always away. So as well as the bootcampers this year get access to the full membership of Jewelers Academy, which is complete with over 20 different jewelry making courses. There's the jewelry photography course. There's the branding course, which guides you through exactly how to brand your jewelry business, and lots of other business courses, online marketing, everything. You will never get through it all. And, you know, the whole point is not to get through it all, but it's about finding the elements that you need right now take your business to the next stage, and then having the coaching and the support inside the group of how you can do that, and the motivation for when you get a little bit stuck, because we all have those down days where we need some support. So some of the courses inside the membership as well as the bootcamp are the jewelry photography course with Karen Young, which is a very in-depth, intense course on how to use a DSLR camera or a phone to take gorgeous pictures of your jewelry. There's some advanced metal clay courses, the stone set hinged cuff, the soldering masterclass, make an engagement ring, the 4-core setting. Then we've got coming up next month, make a silver box. We've got lots on the way. These are all in there at the moment, and lots more being filmed at the moment. Some intermediate silver shaped cabochons, some more metal clay with Julia Ray, intro to wire and jewelry. There's lots. I won't mention them all. We'll be here all night. Some wax carving. The list goes on. And we're always, when we're developing these making courses, we're always thinking, what would help jewelers to create gorgeous work in their own signature style that they can sell on? So we're also always thinking of the commercial element of something that you can make and sell, because that's how we sustain this industry and our businesses. So I just want to tell you very briefly about some of the members and the boot campers who have been doing really well this year. So Carol from Silver Coast Jewelry had a 300% increase in her web sales. She had over 150 website orders this year compared with 20 last year. So she's made a massive growth. And I think something that's really interesting about Carol's story, I know she won't mind me sharing this, is her partner actually had a stroke at the beginning of the year. So, you know, the first reaction was, I can't do this anymore. You know, my life has been turned upside down. But actually, she found that in actually continuing to do her jewelry business alongside her caring duties meant that she had that little bit of life that was carved out for herself. She was able to be very social. She's a lovely social person. So she was talking to people in her community. And it's probably made her be able to deal with that situation actually a lot better. And that's all down to her and the decisions that she made and the work that she's put in. But just to share that, because I think sometimes we think, oh, my life is too difficult right now. But life is always difficult. There's always things. I mean, sometimes it's more challenging, of course, than others. But don't delay your dreams, I think is what I want to share, is that if you want this, you can start it right now. You don't have to get it perfectly right, and you won't. You will make mistakes. That's how we all do it. But little bit by little bit, we can get there all together. Dee Young as well reached 5K sales on Etsy this year. So she said this was all down to the Kickstart challenge, and she's from our community. Her business is Nature by Day. The quote that if your goals don't scare you, they aren't big enough. And because of this, she set herself some nice juicy goals and got out of her comfort zone and basically just went for it. And I think that is really what it comes down to, is if you just decide to go for it, big things do happen. So another person is Sally Howe, who has made huge progress this year. She is one of our members, and she also won an award which we do inside the membership called the Breakthrough of the Year Award, and she was selected to sell her work through the Brand Stylist, which is a very established blog where people get featured, but it's pretty difficult to get on there, so we were very proud that she got on there. And she does wedding ring workshops, she teaches, and she got to number 3 on Google. She was selling those out, and also has over 200,000 unique Pinterest followers. So lots of progress, a rebrand, a new website. There's incredible things that lots of people are doing. So the bootcamp starts this Friday, as I'm sure you would have heard us mention, and runs for 8 weeks live. So there is not much time to sign up before it all kicks off. Very briefly, we'll be looking through the 8 weeks at planning for your success, your branding, your photography, developing your signature style, which is really crucial to having a thriving business in the long term. Online marketing, how to skyrocket those sales with Facebook, Instagram, all the different email marketing. I take you behind the scenes of how to do all of that. Websites that sell. So we focus on Shopify and Squarespace, but we also have lots of content for whatever website platform you're on, how you can make sure that it is compelling and getting lots of traffic and lots of conversions for your customers. And implementation week, which is no fresh content, but we give you a week where you say, okay, we're going to commit to what we're all going to do this week and make some real progress, mastering your money and your business, and then planning for a profitable future. And we will, in week 8, all throughout the course, we'll be working on your jewelry business growth plan, which is a document that you create that is uniquely for your business, that excites you, that gets you raring to go, and that sets up what you're going to do this year and beyond to make this business really a success. So the cost of the bootcamp is £977, but big but, this year we're including it in annual membership, which is priced at just £425. We won't have it this low again. This is like a tester year, putting it in the membership. But you do need to sign up as an annual member before the 24th of January to take part, because we will be closing the doors, because from that day onward, we'll be laser focused on the boot campers and getting them growing their businesses. And even more exciting, a special webinar bonus for anyone who is on the session live with me today. If you sign up during the session, so before the end of this session, which is probably in about 15 minutes or so, once we've got through all the questions, we'll be giving away a free one-to-one review of your website or your Etsy or your Instagram or your web shop. And we don't actually offer this at the moment, but we are thinking of offering it, and it is worth £199. So me or a member of my team will look at your site, we'll give some actionable feedback based on your business goals. And if you don't have any of these up and running yet, you have a few months using the bootcamp to get them up and running. It doesn't expire. You've got up to 6 months to use this. So this is a kind of money can't buy bonus. We've never done this one before. And I should say that there are only 20 of these available, but we don't normally have more than 20 people sign up on a webinar, but it is first come, first serve. So if you're thinking of joining the bootcamp, you haven't joined yet, you're on the fence, then I would encourage you to go for it, because this is something we're probably not going to offer in the future. It has a huge resource impact on us, but we know that it's super useful and we want people to get really great value out of the bootcamp. So join either the bootcamp or annual membership before the lesson. They're the same thing at the moment. So if you're an annual member, you're in the bootcamp. If you're in the bootcamp, you're an annual member before the end of the session to qualify. And to join, you just click on the button on the page which says join the bootcamp here. And And I'm looking forward to working with everyone. We've got lots of jewelers signed up already, but of course, we would love to have you join as well. And if you want to find out more about it, you can visit jewelersacademy.com/bootcamp. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Ask a Question section. I will get to those. So this is my career. This is my passion. This is what I've done since I was 19 years old. And I wholeheartedly believe that everyone deserves a career path that makes them happy, that feeds their soul. I think that we're often called to do things. If jewelry is calling you like it called me, then I want you to know that it is 100% possible. Because I know that when I started out, a lot of people said to me, this is a nice hobby, but you can't make money from it. This can't be your career. And it made me quite sad at the time, because I thought, well, this is what I want to be my career. And, you know, I don't want to do anything else. I'm going to be miserable doing something else. And I think if you have it in your heart that this is what you want to do not let anybody, including yourself, tell you that you can't do it, because you can. It may take some time. It took me 3 years to have a profitable jewelry business that was turning a profit, that I could pay my rent for. But, you know, a few years later, I'm paying much more than my rent. I'm supporting my family, myself, my son, and I get to do this every day. I get to do something that I really love. So, you know, just know that it is possible for you, that you can do this. It may take you time. You can work at your own pace. And I want it for you, and I 100% believe in you. So this is my passion. If it's yours, I would love to be your guide. And whether you join me for the bootcamp or not, I'm very grateful to have you in this community, joining in with webinars. I know that a bunch of you are with me on Instagram or on Facebook. So wherever we connect, please do stay in touch, because you mean the world to me. And when you look inside yourself, you know the truth that you are capable of anything. It's just a case of how, when, and where, and all of those things can be solved. So the membership is open now, but it closes Friday midnight. So make sure you get in before it closes, because we don't know when we're opening it again. Later in the year, we will open it, but there will be a price increase as well. So the promised spreadsheet download. So to download that spreadsheet, Anna will pop it in the comments in a minute, but it is jewellersacademy.com/pricing resources. Download your copy, play around with it, try out the different formulas, and, you know, share with me. Come and share with me on Insta or on Facebook or anywhere that we connect. Share with me how you're getting on with the pricing resources. I would love to see how they're working for you in your business. And we'll get on to some questions. And before we do go through the questions, if anyone has to go, I would just want to thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you more than you know. And if you would like to join me for the bootcamp, I would encourage you to do it on the webinar. But if you can't do it on the webinar, if you need more time, then you do have until Friday midnight. And I can't wait to work with everyone who is signing up. Brilliant. Okay, so let's go on to the question. So Linda says, hi Jess, if you're a wax carver and therefore have the potential to make multiples, how can you adapt the formula if you're using the selling direct formula, or is it just the same? This is a really interesting question. So I think I would start with the same formula, but what you might want to do, this is just a off the fly thing that I would think to do, is work out, so you've got a piece that you've carved in wax. I think then you need to estimate how many pieces of that you want to sell. So is it likely to be 5, 10, 100? And maybe have the figure that you want to sell, like your reach goal that you're excited for, but also the minimum amount you think you realistically could. So let's say you want to sell 20 of them, but you know you can sell 10, like you could definitely do that. Then what I would do is start with the lower number, work out the time it made you to carve the piece and any of the costs involved in the wax carving. So the if you get a mold made, all of that kind of stuff, you know, the cleaning up time, all of that, and price it for that. So any of the extras that are related to the wax carving, I would divide those by the number of pieces you think you're going to sell of that piece. So it's a little bit of a clumsy way of doing it, but that's how I would add in like a section on the spreadsheet. And I might actually do this. it's a good suggestion for wax carving is, okay, what are all the costs related to just the wax carving, casting part of the piece over and above the basics? And how many pieces do I think I'm going to sell? And then dividing it by that. And you might want to run it through multiple scenarios. If I sell 3 pieces, this is how much I need to charge. If I sell 10 pieces, this is how much I need to charge. If I sell 20, this is how much I need to charge. And obviously for the commission-based piece, it's just one. So you just charge for one. And if you happen to use that same piece again, as long as you've not said to that person, there is only one of this, then you just make a bit more. So I'm always happy if you make a bit more money. I'm not happy if you undercut yourself. I think it's probably the same for you. So, but I really like that question. It's very interesting. I've not thought about that before. So thank you for that. And I may well add a wax section in, because I think that's quite interesting. Thank you, Linda. Zoe says, I have a commission for remodeling of 2 rings, and I'm really struggling to work out how much to charge, as I'm not sure of how much is too much or too little. I'm also unsure how long it will take. There are no material costs, so it's purely based on design and making hours. Would this kind of work generally cost more than jewelry made from new? It's a good question on remodeling. I do treat remodeling in a similar way, a very similar way. So there's no material costs, or there might be some. There might be a bit of solder, some saw blades, but yeah, it depending on if it's gold solder does cost quite a bit, especially if you've got to buy it. So just make sure, check there are definitely no material costs, because there may be some. And then I would charge for your time, but maybe give a bracket. So you could say to the customer, okay, I think this is going to take me 4 hours. This is how much it will cost for 4 hours. If it takes me 5 or 6, this is how much it will take me for 5 or 6. And let them choose. Let them say, because they may say to you, especially if it's remodeling, most people have a real emotional connection to that piece. They may well say, I don't mind, as long as you do it well, I'm happy to pay for the whatever, however long it takes. So you can give a bracket. That's one way to do it. I don't think it costs more than made from new. But the other thing to consider is your risk. So obviously, if this goes wrong in any way, and if you're working with things like gold and diamonds, I don't know what it is, but I imagine it's at least metal, then just consider that. So you might want to add in some contingency for risk. Now, I'm not suggesting it's going to go wrong. Absolutely not. But it's always good to just have your back covered. If something were to go wrong, obviously you'd have to probably refund, but you might just be able to buy a little bit of extra gold or something. If it's hard to say based on the exact piece, but just consider your risk. So consider the materials properly. Is there really zero material cost? There's probably not a huge amount. Make sure you charge for your time. And I would say, if you're really not sure, just try and be conservative. It's better to say it's going to cost more. And then you might say, actually, it only took me an hour. I thought it was going to take 5. So it costs less, and they'll be so grateful for that. Imagine as a customer how great that is. I hope that's helped. The more you do these jobs, the easier they get to price for, because I know it is hard, especially if you're quite new to charging for remodeling. You don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know what processes you're necessarily going to have to go through. So always overquote, and then you can go back and say, actually, it's less. What we don't want to be is the situation where we say, this is how much it is, and then it costs you loads more. So, and the other thing is, you will learn from this process. So, there are people who remodel all the time, and I'm sure they could do this quote like with their fingers, like in a snap, because they just know, oh, that would take me this long, and this is what will happen. But if you're new to this, it's a great opportunity to learn. So thank you for the question, Zoe. Brilliant. Let's see. That was Linda's one. Cynthia asked, do I add the material cost with or without the VAT I pay? So this is an interesting question, and it depends on whether you're VAT registered or not. But assuming that you're not VAT registered, you can't claim the VAT back. That is a true cost to you. So if you're a VAT registered business, which I think most of us won't be, then the VAT that we pay on materials is a true cost. If you're a VAT registered business, then you can claim that VAT back. So it's not a true cost. But you probably are not VAT registered, in which case it is a true cost, in which case yes, you charge with the VAT. So if you've paid VAT and you can't claim it back, that is included in the material cost, because that's money out of your pocket, which needs to be put back. A long way of saying it, but hopefully that answered the question. Angela says, may I have a one-to-one look at my website? I'm already an annual member. We are sorting out some things for that. So look inside the Facebook group. We can't give it to everyone, but there will be some given away, and we're going to have like a fun competition around it. So yes, potentially yes, and hopefully, but stay tuned. We'll be announcing that during the boot camp, but there will be an opportunity for current annual members, because we don't want you guys to miss out. Same question there. I'm glad you guys like this. Hi, Jess and Freds. Can we please have a Perspex class? I will see what we can do. I will definitely add that to the list. Is there software to track all of this? So this is what the Excel spreadsheet does. You don't need fancy software to do it. This is how I do it for all of my businesses. You probably could buy some software. I mean, there's online accounting software, but that's very different to pricing. So at the moment, I would just recommend using the spreadsheet. You can copy it as many times. You can do as many things to it as you like. And also, once you get into doing it, you can do it quite easily in your head or on a piece of paper, because you know your formula, because you won't need all three of these formulas for every business. You will probably pick one and go with that, and you'll tweak it and you'll know, okay, this is how I do my pricing. So it probably sounds more complicated than it actually is. But yeah, download the spreadsheet. Excel is a brilliant piece of software. You can use it on Google Docs. You can edit it and do what you like with it. So Reem said, I did, but the selling price is double the basic price. Is it correct? And Anna's put the standard markup for retailers. Yeah, so normally double is the standard that we go by, whether we're selling online or through wholesale. It's normally double. But as I said, do not take these formulas as gospel. They are a starting point. We then need to take them through those 4 elements of pricing. What does the market say? What's my value? If I'm brand new in business, I'm probably going to be charging a little bit less, not undercutting, but I'm not going to have as much brand value as somebody who's more established. What other added value am I able to add on top of the basics of selling my jewelry? And also, what do I want from this business? Julie says, how much would you charge for an expensive gemstone in the wholesale formula? You said to multiply the stone by 1.5 in the bespoke formula and add it to the end. Would you do the same for wholesale? I think I would do the same for wholesale. It depends. It's not that usual that people are selling expensive pieces in wholesale. So I would run it through a couple of formulas and then use my judgment to make the decision. I don't have a standardized way of doing that. It'd be interesting to see anyone who has that kind of business model, how they do that. If they do, come and share it in the comments. But I think I would start with, yes, keeping it as it is, because you don't want to charge cost price for a stone, because you are doing the work of sourcing the stone, taking the risk of buying the stone. And if that piece is on sale or return, you may get it back. So we need to add in some buffer room there for your business to not be losing out. So 1.5 seems like a good amount to me. But if the wholesalers you work with consistently, and I don't mean just one, but if consistently they're all saying this is way over and above what is possible for us, then you might look at adjusting that to 1.2, 1.3, or, you know, but there needs to be something for you. I don't think it can just be by one, and making sure you've got that wholesale profit included there as well, to make sure that you're getting some income for growing your business. But good question. I like that one. Thank you, Julie. Ruth says, do you have a pricing formula for workshops? Does the direct to customer formula approach work? Oh, it's very interesting. So I price workshops differently, but it's kind of similar. So I will look at the materials that I use in that workshop, including anything that I'm giving to the customer, not the tools, assuming I'm not giving them to them, but what's the materials. I will then, well, actually, how I do it may not be that helpful, because I have a jewelry school, so we do it in quite a big way. But trying to think of us, assuming that it's not a jewelry school yet. So you want to make sure you've got your materials covered. You also want to look at the market as well. I think it is the same way, actually. If I think about it, I don't think I would double. I think I would look at materials, look at my time, look at the market, how much of prices, and that's probably more important for workshops, is looking at the market, because there tends to be a kind of standardized figure. And then you think, okay, do I want to go a bit more? Am I a bit more established, or am I a bit more high end, or do I want to go a bit less to kind of establish my name? But another good question. You guys are good on this one, all the good questions. I can come up with a formula for that, definitely. So I've got 2 new formulas to create, but I think the similar prices would apply. So you'd go through, what are all your costs? What is the value to the customer? How much is the market rate, and what are you happy with? So definitely those 4 elements I would go through. I'm not sure that the markup of 2 quite applies to this, because it's just a very different type of business model. But hopefully that helps, Ruth. And thanks again for the question. Victoria says, any ideas how to start with a very low budget without cutting on the quality? Interesting. I mean, I think, assuming you're starting your jewelry business, I think silver is a good place to start if you've got a low budget. I mean, obviously, if it's very low, you might not have the materials to create the silver work, in which case working with wire and gemstones is really nice, and it doesn't have to be expensive, and you can use just pliers, which is not an expensive tool outlay. So perhaps starting with that, but then moving on to more silver work. There are ways that you can create model pieces if you want to do commission stuff. So, okay, this may not be very low budget, but I know if you're wanting to move towards working with more precious items like gold or platinum or white gold, you can create your pieces in silver and get them plated as examples. You can create pieces with CZs instead of diamonds, but say that it could be a diamond if you know how to work with those materials. I think it's all about just creating something that you think you would buy. So if you really love it, that's a good place to start, especially if you're new, because there's this saying, I think, in business, that if you would love it, you've got a chance. If you would be a customer, then you've got a chance. And I think that's true. You know, whenever I'm thinking about whatever I'm putting out there for my business, I think, if I was in the customer's shoes, would I be happy with this? And if I'm not, then I'm not going to put it out there. So that's a good way to think about it. But yeah, at the very beginning, so pliers, some wire, maybe some silver wire, and some gold-filled wire is great quality to work with. It's not cheap, but you can start small, and working with gemstones and selling those pieces, and just really hunting around for bargains when it comes to like your packaging. You can, if you have a lot of time, you can often make up for money by making things yourself and by being really resourceful, looking around all the Facebook groups online and really working out what have other people done. It does help the more you are able to invest, which is why we really need these profits in our business to be able to reinvest them to grow. You don't need to spend a lot of money, but having a little bit of money does help when you're starting out. But if you have none, then you can still do it. I mean, lots of jewelers start that way, absolutely. And it's just a case of finding the first step, selling that first piece, making the money, bringing it in, buying the materials for the next one. And it's called bootstrapping. And it's actually a great way to grow a business, because you prove to yourself and your business proves to you that it works. Because if someone starts with loads of money, and then they've got to make all of that back. If they've spent it all out on materials and tools and all of that, we've got to make all that back. That might take us a year or 2 to make back. But if we start with almost nothing and we sell each piece and we kind of, you know, we bring in the sale and then we use that money from the sale to feed it, it may be a bit slower. It may feel like more of a slog, but our business is growing at the rate that it should be growing based on our income, not based on what we've just brought to it. So there are some really good advantages to that as well. Thank you for the question, Victoria. Brilliant. Okay, so Lydia says, with the courses, are you able to pause them or are they live? So most of them are not live. Most of the content is not live like this one. So yes, you can absolutely pause, replay, watch as many times as you like, take notes, all of that good stuff. But we do a live once a week in the boot camp, which is like this. So whilst you can't pause now, if you're watching on the replay, you can pause. So you can always go back and rewatch the Q&As as well. So everything in the future is recorded so that you can watch it as well. Thank you for the question, Lydia. Trisha says, website or Etsy, which is best? Is there any difference on how to price depending on whether you're on one or the other, please? So, okay, this is a big question. I think that the best way to go in the long run is to have your own website, because you are creating your own brand. You develop brand loyalty, because if somebody buys something from Etsy, they'll normally say, if they're sharing it with someone, I got this on Etsy. Whereas if they buy it from your website, they'll say, I bought it from so-and-so designs. So there's that brand loyalty is being developed more. On Etsy, there's more competition. And on your website, you have quite a bit more control over how you develop your mailing list, over how you communicate with your customers. And there's just that more personal interaction. So website would be my favorite. However, if you are new and you want to get up and running and starting a website is holding you back in any way, then Etsy is a great place to start. And also, if you've been on Etsy for a long time, you've developed reviews, you've got lots of followers and you're doing well, then keep doing what's working. So they're the two arguments for Etsy over the website. But overall, definitely a website over Etsy in the long run. In terms of pricing, I wouldn't price differently on each one. I think your jewelry is the same value wherever it is, but on pricing, people may be a little bit more in the price sensitive category on Etsy. Whereas if they come to your website, they're not looking for anything other than your work. They're not comparing it to anything. So it's kind of it's easier to sell at the rate that you want to sell at. Don't compare yourself to other people on Etsy. Don't charge the same as what someone else is charging if it's lower than what you need to be charging, because at the end of the day, you're driving traffic to your site, whether it's website or Etsy. So a lot of people have this misconception that if they put their work on Etsy, everyone will see it and people will buy, but they won't. All it is a platform, a bit like an easy to set up website. That's all that I see it as. So they don't really do the marketing for you. You need to do it yourself. So you're driving traffic from your Instagram, from your email marketing, from your business cards, from your in-person events to wherever this shop is. And then people are going there to see you and they want your work and they know who you are. And that's what we want. We want visitors to already know what they're coming to. And that's where we do all the marketing around Instagram, so on and so forth. So short answer, website. And charge the same. Thank you for that one, Trisha. And just also to say, we are coming to the end. There's a couple more questions which I'll work through. Thank you guys so much for staying here with me. If you would like to join me for the bootcamp, there is still time, because we are still on the live to get your one-to-one, and there are still some places left. The 20 have not been filled out yet. So have a quick look around, make the decision and decide and go for it. And we can work together on growing these businesses. So Emanine asked, what if others are underpricing and you based on their prices? I wouldn't worry about what anyone else is doing. I mean, it's good to look around at the market in general, but if you know someone's underpricing, they're not going to be around for very long. And also, it doesn't mean that if somebody else does a business practice that it doesn't work for them, isn't sustainable for them, I don't believe that we should follow suit with that. There will be some people that will look around at everything, that will compare, especially these bargain hunters I've been talking about. We all know one. We've all got one in our family, and there's nothing wrong with them. But there will be people who do that. But for every person who does that, there'll be people who don't care about what everyone else is doing and who've seen your work, who want your work, and who buy it. So I would say stick by your prices. Price for profit. If you've been undercharging, then gradually increase, so it's not like a sudden hike, and know that you're doing the right thing for you and your business. And if it doesn't work, I wouldn't change the prices. I would maybe work on your jewelry and developing something that's more unique. This is something that we work on in the bootcamp, your signature style, so that people can't compare you, because what you do is different. And if they want what you are offering, they have to get it from you. So that's how I would treat that. Andrew says, could we have some info on eco-friendly practices, please? And Anna's posted a blog. So yeah, we have a whole masterclass on this inside the membership, which I believe, Andrew, you are a member, so you can go and check it out. It's a whole other topic, so I won't cover it here, but there is a blog and a masterclass, so do go and check them out. And it is a great thing to be working on. Always something that we're developing within the industry is how to be eco-friendly, how to be as ethical as we can in all the different ways possible in our jewelry business, how to source those things, and developing our knowledge of it. So great thing to talk about. We do got to save the world. Could we have the mathematical drawing and design class as well, please? I will see what I can do. Drawing and design. We do have a design class coming up this year for sure. It may not be mathematical, but it may be. It depends what you guys want. We will create what you need. So Leary Works is wholesale �2 the cost plus labor, or is that retail? Wholesale is not, so in the wholesale model, we do your materials, so all your materials, all your making time, so your labor time, and that brings it up to cost price. Then we add in wholesale profit. So it's important to add in wholesale profit. That is the little element, which is normally 20 to 30% roughly, which covers your overheads in your business and which gives you some profits to grow the business over and above your salary. That's separate to your salary. So there's that, and then that we times by 2. But if you download the spreadsheet, it should make a little bit more sense, because I always find talking about these things is one thing, but when you start putting your numbers in and working on it with your jewelry, you kind of get more of a feel for it, and it makes sense. Leary says, never mind, I think I got it. And Leary says, do you charge different pricing for places that do wholesale and buy outright and places that you sell work based on consignment? So I wouldn't sell for different prices, but I would potentially give a discount. So what I prefer to do, instead of giving different prices, I might say this is the wholesale price, this is the retail price, and that's that. So that's the same for everyone. But if you buy a certain amount of pieces, or if you buy it outright and they've been on wholesale forever, so if they're moving from sale or return to buy outright, I might say I'll throw something in, like I'll give a bonus, because I think that's better than because if you undercut your prices, then, I mean, you would have factored it into your formula anyway, because this is all part of your strategy. But if you undercut your prices, then it's kind of like a constant undercutting. What I like to do for wholesalers is say, here's some offers, because we've got to remember they're customers too, they're people. So if we incentivize them and we give a time limit on it, then they're more likely to feel incentivized to do that. If, as a shop owner, someone says to me, buy my Christmas collection, it's got 10 pieces in and all the pieces are 10%, as an overall, it's 10% less the cost price to you because you've bought the whole collection. Or you can have all the pieces, it's not 10% less, or you can choose any pieces you want, it's not 10% less, and I'll do it on sale or return. So instead of lowering the price, I tend to do offers, because then people know it's time limited and they know what the original price is. So with an offer, they still charge the same retail price, but they get more profit from it. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, all these things that you can do. And I think something that's really exciting is once you know your cost price and what price you sell for, you see the wiggle room for marketing. It means you can start having fun with bonuses and offering packages for people, and doing time limited things where you say, oh, for this week only, I'm getting all my wholesalers ready for Christmas. For this week only, if you buy this package, this is what I can offer. So there's all sorts of things. Leary is pronounced like Perry. Oh, sorry. Thank you for that update. Brilliant. All right. I think we have come to the end of the session. So thank you guys so much once again for being here. Thank you for all the incredible questions. You've made it a wonderful sessions with your contributions. Thank you to anyone who signed up for the bootcamp. I cannot wait. Bring on Friday, and we have lots of preparation work to do as well. So make sure you get joining the membership Facebook group so we can start interacting, learning about you, and getting ready for the bootcamp. And for anyone who's not sure about the bootcamp, you have any questions, you're on the fence, feel free to message me or Anna, contact@jewellersacademy.com. We can answer any question. There is no such thing as a silly question. So send them over. And if you can't join us, then thank you again for being part of the community. I look forward to seeing you guys on another session very soon. Good luck with your pricing. Good luck with your businesses. Keep going. Keep doing it. You have got this. Alrighty. Bye for now.